Most people assume that Canada's fighter jet decision was never truly Canada's to make. For decades, it has been understood, quietly but firmly, that Canada's air power would remain tied to the United States. Geography made it inevitable. Shared air defense under NORAD made it operationally necessary, and the dominance of American aerospace made alternatives appear unrealistic. In this context, the Gripen was often dismissed before it was even seriously considered. It was seen as capable, but peripheral, efficient, but politically inconvenient. A fighter designed by a smaller nation, operating outside the gravitational pull of Washington's defense ecosystem. And yet, beneath the surface, something had begun to shift. Canada's strategic reality was changing. The Arctic was no longer a frozen buffer zone. It was becoming an active domain of surveillance flights, maritime probes, and strategic signaling. Russian long-range aviation activity had increased. Chinese research vessels and dual-use platforms were appearing in northern waters. The illusion of distance was fading. Canada needed aircraft that could operate reliably in isolation, from remote airfields, in extreme weather, without constant dependence on foreign logistics pipelines. For years, the F-35 had been presented as the inevitable answer. It was the centerpiece of Allied air power modernization. Its stealth, sensors, and network integration represented the future of air combat. But the future came with conditions. Operating the F-35 meant integrating deeply into an American-controlled sustainment and software ecosystem. Mission data, software updates, and system access flowed through centralized channels. It ensured unmatched interoperability, but it also introduced a quiet, structural dependency. Most assumed Canada would accept this as the cost of alliance. Then came the moment that few expected. Behind closed doors, defense officials began evaluating not just combat capability, but operational sovereignty. They examined sortie rates in harsh climates, maintenance demands in remote environments, the ability to disperse aircraft during crises, the resilience of supply chains under political strain, and slowly, the conversation expanded beyond performance. Gripen was designed with a different philosophy. It was built by a country that assumed it might have to fight alone. It emphasized rapid turnaround, minimal ground crew, operation from improvised or damaged runways, independence from centralized infrastructure. This was not a theoretical advantage. It was a doctrine shaped by geography and necessity. What surprised observers was not Gripen's capability, but how closely its operating philosophy aligned with Canada's emerging strategic needs. Then came the turning point. As evaluations progressed, signals began emerging from Washington. They were not public statements, not at first. They were diplomatic conversations, strategic reminders, quiet warnings about interoperability, alliance cohesion, and the long-term consequences of defense divergence. At the center of these signals was a simple, unspoken reality. Defense platforms are not just military tools, they are instruments of alignment. Reports began circulating that senior American political figures, including former and returning leadership voices, were expressing concern about Canada's direction. The spot. The message was measured, but unmistakable. Choosing differently would have consequences. This was not about whether Gripen could fly. It was about whether Canada was willing to step, even slightly, outside the architecture that had defined North American defense for generations. The assumption had always been that Canada wouldn't, but assumptions, once tested, begin to weaken. What followed was not a public confrontation, but a quiet strategic standoff. Canada's leadership, under Prime Minister Mark Carney, faced a decision that extended far beyond aircraft specifications. It was a decision about sovereignty, resilience, and the future balance between integration and independence. Because beneath the technical comparisons, one reality stood out. Modern fighters do not operate alone. They exist inside ecosystems. The F-35 ecosystem was vast, powerful, and proven, but it was also centralized. Software authority, upgrade timelines, and system modifications ultimately flowed through external control structures. Gripen offered something different. Its architecture allowed domestic control over mission data, Its maintenance model required fewer specialized facilities. Its operational design assumed disruption, not stability. In Arctic conditions, where weather, distance, and isolation could degrade even the most advanced systems, simplicity translated into availability. Availability in real-world defense is power. Studies and operational data consistently showed that aircraft readiness rates often mattered more than theoretical capability. An aircraft grounded for maintenance, waiting for specialized components or authorized software access, contributed nothing to immediate defense. Gripen's operating costs were also significantly lower. Lower cost did not just mean savings. It meant more flight hours, more pilot proficiency, more sustained readiness over decades of service. This changed the strategic equation because air power is not measured in individual aircraft performance. It is measured in sustained operational presence. As Canada moved closer to its decision, pressure intensified. Political voices in the United States began speaking more openly about the importance of defense alignment. Concerns were raised about interoperability, joint operations, and the risks of fragmentation within allied air forces. Some messages were subtle, others were less so. Warnings emerged that divergence could complicate defense cooperation, that certain technological integrations might become more difficult, that choices carried consequences beyond national borders. But Canada's position had its own logic. Sovereignty was not about rejecting alliance. It was about ensuring operational freedom within it. Gripen's design allowed Canada to operate, modify, and sustain its aircraft without external dependency at every step. It provided flexibility in uncertain political futures. Futures where alliances remained strong, but national priorities could diverge. The decision was not about rejecting the United States. It was about reducing vulnerability to any single point of control. This distinction was quiet, but profound, because for the first time in decades, Canada was seriously considering a path that prioritized operational independence alongside alliance integration. If Canada, America's closest defense partner, could step partially outside the established ecosystem, others might follow.
For decades, Canada has relied on
countries seeking capability without dependency. The implications extended far beyond North America. In the end, this was never just about Gripen or the F-35. It was about whether modern alliances would remain ecosystems of shared strength, or evolve into networks where sovereignty and integration existed in delicate balance. Canada's decision did not break the alliance, but it introduced a new variable into its future. And once the assumption of inevitability is broken, it cannot easily be restored. The question now is no longer whether Canada can choose differently. It is whether others, watching quietly, will decide to do the same.